Hi, I'm Prepper Kiwi Carolyn.
Hi, I'm Prepper Kiwi Rose. In this series, we'll be talking about crafting and making anything that you might need for a prepping situation.
In this video, I'm going to be making pemmican, which is dried meat rendered with fat that the American Indians used to travel long distances with very lightweight and nutrient-dense food. I'm going to be making my pemmican with New Zealand beef. You can probably make it with just about any meat as long as there's enough fat to go with it. Here's a close-up of the finished product. It looks like some sort of yummy chocolate biscuit, but it is dehydrated meat, ground down and then mixed with rendered fat to encase it, and it should keep like that for a very long time. At the start you want a fat meat ratio of about 3 parts meat to 1 part fat, so a quarter of it needs to be fat. At the end we're going to end up with a ratio of 50% dried meat to 50% of rendered fat, so it's a bit hard to calculate at the start. Remove the fat from the meat. Put that aside because we're going to render that down into a pure oil. You could just buy your fat separately, and that might be what I do next time. You need to cut your meat into very fine slices, so you cut them nice and thin. We'll cut that little piece off the top in a second and put that in with our fat to be rendered. I'm going to dehydrate these in my oven. The Native American people would have hung these over racks in the sun or over a fire, which is nice, and that is something that you could do in New Zealand, but I'm going to do mine in the oven. They take quite a long time to dehydrate, anywhere between 8 and 12 hours in the oven. Have the oven on a low temperature, around about 50 degrees Celsius, so you're not cooking them, you're just drying them out. I have the door open and the fan on just to force it around. On the top we've got the fat rendering down. This is when it looks the yuckiest. I've got the saucepan sitting in a fry pan of water there, just mitigate some of the risk of burning that fat before it's melted. Meat's still not ready yet. You can see a little bit of dewy colour on the meat and you know that they've got a wee way to go yet. Back on the top it's really starting to render down, so all the oil is now melting out of it. A bit later on now, and you can see that the oil has really separated from all the other bits and pieces in there. So I've removed the fry pan from underneath because at this stage all the oil is melted. Imagine if this was pork crackle, this would be delicious. This isn't as nice as pork crackle, but it certainly won't be going to waste in this house. This is also the most dangerous time when you're cooking with fat because the temperature is getting up quite high and you have to watch that you don't set your fat on fire. Once it's fully separated, strain it and you're left with this beautiful clear oil. 12 hours later and our meat is ready. You can turn the oven on and off. You don't have to do this in one day. You can have it going during the day and just turn it off at night and let it dehydrate just with the heat from in there. These are quite dry now and they've shrunk to about 1/3 of their size. They need to be dry enough that you can powder them in your coffee grinder like I'm using or in a food processor. If that won't work, then they're not dry enough. Now you need to mix those with your rendered oil. You want every little piece to be encased in oil, and that's how it keeps so long, because no air, no moisture can get into the meat because you've got it sealed in these little packages of rendered oil. Now we need to put it aside to set into the biscuit. I'm putting mine in the fridge overnight. The next morning, here's the finished block of beef pemmican. All we need to do is slice that up and store it and wrap it, and it's ready to go. This should keep a long time. Remember, the Native Americans didn't have fridges or freezers to take with them or big massive backpacks. That's why they utilised this sort of meat. That is almost like taking a piece of steak with you, that tiny piece there. I'm going to wrap these and put them aside, not in the fridge, and every year I'm going to eat one and see what it tastes like, see if it's still good. Hopefully I don't poison myself, but if it was good enough for the American Indians, then it's probably good enough for me. So if you're a hunter tramping into the bush, or you're a prepper that thinks you might have to travel long distances and want a light load, then this is something you should definitely be thinking about. However, I certainly wouldn't recommend that you give this to a vegan or a vegetarian or someone who is running their body on a lot of carbohydrates, or they'll be in the wharepaku for quite a few days. See you next time.
See you next time.
It's nice out here tonight, isn't it?
It is actually.